Live from our 7 Tasmania studios, your nightly news with Louise Hubar begins now.
Good evening. Guy Barnett will steer the state government's biggest portfolio, named Tasmania's newest health minister. The Premier announcing the new lineup today. Also problematic portfolio, another one moved on.
The so-called poison chalice of Tasmanian politics has a new holder. It's Guy Barnett's turn to see if he has the perfect tonic for the health portfolio.
Well, Guy has demonstrated that he's a very capable minister. He's demonstrated that he is also well equipped to lead reform.
The Lions MP, who wasn't present for the announcement, has 2 decades of experience in state and federal politics, most of that time with a snappy line up his sleeve.
There's never a worse time in Tasmanian history to be a weed.
And sometimes a more stern one.
Clearly it was a stunt by the Greens.
Health is a portfolio where we need someone who will go in and listen to what needs to be done and listen to those people working on the front line. Minister Barnett has shown that he's not willing to listen to anyone.
The best approach is to sit down, sensibly negotiate in good faith. That's what I've done.
He comes in at a time when health outcomes are looking up, with steady progress on a new pay deal with nurses.
Obviously, we do have some concerns that Minister Barnett will be able to dedicate the time and energy and resources to the health portfolio when juggling many others as well.
Minister Barnett will keep energy. The Premier himself gains the portfolio of state development, trade and the Antarctic, along with hospitality. Nick Street will become Housing and Construction Minister and take an expanded portfolio of stadia and events. Joe Palmer will gain Community Services and Development. Madeline Ogilvie gains the portfolio of Women and Prevention of Family Violence, but she's been scratched from racing after a turbulent year and a half.
She's misled parliamentary committees. She has made an absolute shambles of that portfolio. We've been calling for her to be taken out of that portfolio.
I can only commend Ms Ogilvie for the work that she has done across a range of portfolios.
Felix Ellis will now implement racing reforms and deal with the fallout of an integrity and animal welfare probe, adding to his already enormous workload.
Minister Ellis is very passionate and committed to rural and regional Tasmania.
This reset is the 5th in just over 2 years, and the Premier says it's about a reset. Others say it's about politics and easing internal divisions.
Well, the Conservatives in the Liberal Party have clearly got the whip hand and they're using it.
We'll focus as a parliamentary Liberal team on continuing to deliver for Tasmania. My view is that our members are very proud of our team.
A swearing-in ceremony for the new cabinet will be held at Government House on Tuesday. Josh Duggan, 7 Tasmania News.
Meanwhile, Labor is backing calls for action on a stalled regional healthcare expansion. New aged care beds have been slated for the Oatlands Health Centre, but the Community Advisory Group says they've been waiting 2 years.
The need has been great for so many years that there's been many a family that had to leave this community because of no more beds.
It's really sensible for us to invest in these facilities to support the staff who are working here and allow the community members to use their local facilities close to home.
The Premier says a tender for the project will be released next month with $3.5 million committed. Crosstown football rivals, usually at odds with each other, have joined forces calling for a halt on plans to scrap the Tasmanian State League. A new VFL side is set to replace the TSL in 2025, but Launceston and North Launceston football clubs are critical of the plan, saying the move will mean fewer opportunities for elite level players.
The TSL will disappear. You'll have a lot of players taken from North Launceston, from Launceston and other clubs to be taken down either into the VFL or into the AFL. What does that do with the clubs that are left?
North Launceston player Fletcher Bennett says the changes may mean he's forced to move interstate to play at the highest level that he can.
I'm very proud to be a Tasmanian. Being a Tasmanian obviously means a lot. So it is very disappointing.
AFL Tasmania says it would welcome conversations with affected parties and wants to build 3 strong and sustainable football regions. And AFL Tasmania is investigating why a regional footy match was abandoned in the third quarter yesterday. In a Facebook post, the Oatlands District Football Association claimed an umpire abused a player. Oatlands were taking on Tribunna at the time. The Tasmanian Football Umpires Association says it has also conducted investigations to gain a better understanding of the full circumstances before reaching any conclusions. To some breaking news now, and emergency services have just closed Janet Street at Kings Meadows. It's understood they're dealing with a fire there. Motorists are being asked to avoid the area. In a major blow for hard-working apprentices, Metro Tasmania is accused to have slashed thousands from their pay. The Manufacturing Workers Union says it's an attack on young Tasmanians as it turns to the government for a resolution.
Changing the way it handles recruitment, Metro Tasmania is saving funds and sparking outrage.
This was a cruel, sneaky, callous move by Metro to save as much money as possible, all while telling apprentices that they would not be worse off.
The outcry comes after Metro Tasmania stopped using a third party to employ its engineering apprentices, engaging with them directly instead, but in the process cutting wages by around $15,000 over the course of their 4-year traineeship.
If the Premier is serious about the reset, where he said that he wanted to be determined in tackling cost of living pressures, he needs to urgently step in and right this wrong.
The public transport provider claims it's looking into the matter after being made aware of a few apprentices who resigned from the former provider to sign on with Metro.
I look forward to the outcomes in terms of that investigation, and every single Tasmanian needs to be paid for a fair day's work for a fair day's pay.
Metro also vowing to negotiate with the engineering team on a new enterprise bargaining agreement to reach an outcome that recognises its hard work but is also affordable for the business.
This should not be a bargaining matter. It should simply be restored right now.
Brianna Boylan, 7 Tasmania News.
Tiny trains, many made by hand, have gone on show in the state's north for the Longford Model Railway exhibition. Now, in its third year, hundreds of locomotive lovers turned out to admire the displays, some worth thousands of dollars.
A historic northeast train station replicated in miniature.
This is its first public outing, 100%. Not that layouts are ever 100% finished.
Every intricate detail made from scratch, this model of Lywinner is a labour of love.
My dad got me into it. He's been scratch building for 60 years or more, so yeah, it's his fault.
While Simon's displays taken inspiration from real life, others have let their fancy run full steam ahead. Alan Mila's layout is an American fantasy town, complete with a complex signal system and neon signs.
I've asked the company to try and make them smaller because they're too big for the scale.
Some of his models are more than 60 years old.
They look nicer than the modern made trains today. They're too clean.
Perennial favourite Thomas and Friends were on hand, the event attracting hundreds of rail enthusiasts over the weekend, with young fans finding their favourites.
That one over there. It's massive.
My favourite display has probably got to be the O scale up on the stage.
Proceeds from the event are going towards the restoration of a life-size legend of Tasmanian rail history.
Looking to reinstate the ornate columns that were on the iconic Longford Bridge.
Hoping to keep those renovation plans on track. Annie Green. 7 Tasmania News.
Today, Hobart, Launceston and Devonport all 14. Burnie reached a top of 13 degrees. Friendly Beaches and St Helens, the state's top with 15. Flinders Island and Bushy Park 14. King Island, Wynyard, Lowhead, Maria Island, Grove and Strawn all 13. 7th, the top for Lyweenie after an overnight temperature of -1 degree. We experienced overcast low cloud today over the west and scattered low cloud over the northeast. A mid to high level cloud band centres over inland Queensland and New South Wales. Low level cloud covers parts of Tasmania and coastal parts of SA and Western Victoria. The remainder of the nation is mostly cloud free. Tomorrow, a high pressure system centres over SA, extending a ridge over the entirety of the country as a weak trough lies over central Queensland. Tomorrow, westerly winds 20 to 30 knots, tending 30 to 40 knots in the afternoon and evening. South and southwesterly can expect southwesterly swells 3 to 4 metres, building up to 6 metres in the afternoon and evening. A gale warning has been issued between Tasman Island to Low Rocky Point. There is also a strong wind warning between Stanley and St Helens Point, and also for the lower east coast and central west coast. Tomorrow, Hobart partly cloudy and 15, Dover and Ouse both 14 degrees. Partly cloudy in Launceston, Devonport and Scottsdale tomorrow. Cloudy in Burnie and Stanley with 14, showers for Strawn. St Helens is the place to be tomorrow, sunny and 16, also 16 for Swansea and partly cloudy in Ross. To the 3-day forecast, Tuesday fine apart from some light showers about the west, patchy frost and fog in the northeast. Wednesday showers about the west and Bass Strait Islands with possible light afternoon showers. Fog and frost continues in the northeast. Thursday, light showers about the north and west, those frosty conditions continue in the north. Taking a look now to the mainland tomorrow, a possible shower for Melbourne and Brisbane, cloudy in Adelaide, easing showers in Sydney. And currently in Hobart, it's partly cloudy with 9 degrees, also mostly clear in Launceston and also mostly clear in Devonport. Lou, we are more than halfway through winter with only 40 more sleeps until spring.
I love that calculation. That has made my weekend. Thank you for that, Kaya. And before we leave you tonight, a parade of echidnas have been spotted making their way to the top of Ben Lomond. The Tasmanian Rover Ski Club shared the incredibly cute vision with us. We can only assume they're on their way to check out the beautiful views from on top of the mountain. And that's all your news for this Sunday. Thank you so much for joining us. Kim will be back with you tomorrow. Have a lovely and safe evening. Good night.